Schonauer. I am the Assistant Director of our Program Services at ISAC. And today I'm just going to give you kind of a brief overview of our ISAC programs that we have. And basically I'll just review what kind of an overview of the program, the eligibility requirements, and the application requirements. There's other processes too that schools have to do, but I did not include that into this presentation just because they're more school specific. So some programs we're going to go over today will be the MAP, our Monetary Award Program, better known as the MAP, which is our largest program that we have at ISAC. The AIM High program, our teaching programs, which is our Early Childhood Access Consortium for Equity Scholarship Program, better known as ECACE. Golden Apple, Special Education Teacher Tuition Waiver, which is SETTW. That's kind of how you would see it referred to. And a new program for ISAC, the Teacher of Illinois Scholarship Program, that began or is beginning for the 25-26 school year and is just now in the process of being opened here soon. The Nursing Education Scholarship. Our military programs, I'm just going to touch on them real briefly because they're the National Guard. You might qualify if a student is in the National Guard for some reason, during high school. And then the Veterans Grant is more you have to have served. So that won't so much apply for any new students, high school type students. So I'll just kind of touch on that a little bit. The Displaced Energy Worker Dependent Transition Scholarship, and then the grant programs for dependents of police and fire correctional officers, better known as PFC. So we'll start with AIM High. It's the aspirational institutional match, helping Illinois grow higher education, so known as the AIM High grant. It provides assistance towards full-time undergraduates' cost of attendance. It was a pilot program, and last year or 2 years ago, it became a permanent program that is eligible for appropriations. It's available through one of Illinois' 12 public four-year institutions. Universities will provide matching funding for institutional awards, which may or not be available to the same students who receive the AIM High grant. It kind of depends on how the matching awarding is designed by each university, because each university that is given funds can determine how they want to award this program. So that's where a student would work really closely with their school that they're going to attend that has this program. And then here's a link to the information where you can view that on the university's website. It provides assistance towards a full-time undergraduate student's cost of attendance at the university. It's renewable, and if a student receives it once and continues to meet the eligibility requirements, they could get it again. The renewal award will be an amount no less than the award the student received the first year of attendance, unless that's reduced. For example, like say the student would reduce their number of hours that they're enrolled in, so that could change things, or maybe they switched majors, went to either a higher cost program or a lower cost program. To be eligible, they had to have attended Illinois high school, be engaged in a program of study that will be completed by the end of the school year. And that could vary based on institutions. That may not be a requirement for that particular institution. Apply to be enrolled for the first time at a public university. Be a resident of Illinois, be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, or meet the criteria of the undocumented criteria of the RISE Act. And of course, they need to file their FAFSA. They must meet the minimum cumulative grade point average of an ACT or SAT, which is determined by that university, so it can vary from school to school. Be enrolled as an undergraduate student on full-time basis in whatever university they participate in. They cannot already have a bachelor's degree. They cannot be incarcerated, not be in default of any student loan, nor owe any refund for any state or federal grant. And then whatever criteria that the school that student would be attending, whatever their criteria is, they need to meet that also. Applying, students applying for the Aim High grant would need to file a FAFSA, check out the university that they're going to see if there's any additional requirements that university may have, and work with their financial aid office to make sure that all their financial aid's in line. ISAC determines the amount of the Aim High grant funding for each university each academic year based on whatever appropriations we get for that Aim High program. The disbursements are made directly to the universities, and then universities develop the procedures to disperse those to the students. The next program I'll go into is our Monetary Award Program, which is our MAP program. And as I said earlier, that's our largest program. That's the biggest one that we oversee at ISAC. It provides grant assistance to eligible students demonstrating financial need. The MAP grants are applied toward tuition and mandatory fees, and schools know what those mandatory fees are, so they know what would be covered. It also, the award cannot exceed must not exceed the maximum award amount for each academic year, and that this year for 25-26 for students who are in college this year, that maximum annual award is $8,064. And let's see, and then here's a list here of our MAP approved schools that we have private and 2- and 4-year, and I'm sorry, there's a misspelling there and I apologize for that. And universities and hospital schools that you can look to see who's participating. So this is a little bit smaller because there's a lot of eligibility requirements in MAP. A student must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen or meet the criteria of the RISE Act. They must be a resident of Illinois. For dependent students, the parent who is required to complete the FAFSA must physically reside in Illinois, and Illinois must be their true, fixed, and permanent home at the time the initial FAFSA was completed and processed by the central processing system. If Illinois becomes the parent's true, fixed, permanent home after the initial FAFSA is filed, the students and the parent's state of legal residence and a permanent mailing address must be corrected to indicate Illinois as a residency on their FAFSA. The correction must be received by ISAC while data is still being accepted and processed for the applicable academic year. So basically they can, if they start out, maybe they lived in Missouri and when they filed their FAFSA, but then they've moved to Illinois, and they're a dependent student, all they got to do is basically correct that address, and then the parents would just show some kind of proof that they are Illinois residents at that time, and schools will work with them. The universities and colleges will work with them to let them know what documents they're going to need to show to show proof of residency. For independent students, it's a little bit different. They have to physically reside in Illinois for 12 continuous months immediately prior to the start of the academic year for which they're applying for financial aid. For an example, an independent student attending an institution with an academic year starting on August 5th, 2026 must have been in Illinois from August 5th, 2025 through August 4th, 2026. Also, a student needs to demonstrate financial need, and that's kind of how we use the FAFSA for that to determine, is there a need out there for the student to get a MAP grant. They need to be enrolled in a minimum of 3 credit hours in a degree or certificate program at an approved Illinois college for either a semester or a quarter term, depending on how their school, if there's a term school or a quarter school. And they need to attend throughout the institution's tuition refund withdrawal adjustment period. And that does include credit-bearing certificate programs that are offered at public institutions and are less than 1 year in academic length. So there is a MAP grant that could be awarded for that. So further details are provided in the MAP certificate programs document. They must be an undergraduate student who has not received a baccalaureate degree. Graduate students are not eligible for MAP. They must maintain the satisfactory academic progress of whatever the institution's SAP policy is. A student must be meeting that. They cannot be in default on any student loans, nor owe a refund or repayment of any student or federal grant or scholarship. Students in default may reestablish MAP eligibility by one, repaying the debt in full, making SAP payment arrangements, or excuse me, making satisfactory payment arrangements with the holder of the loan. And then they would need to provide a letter showing that they've made those arrangements. And then making payments on defaulted loan or consolidating the loan. And again, they would need to show proof that they did all those steps or one of those steps. Not be incarcerated and not have exceeded the equivalent of 135 MAP paid credit hours. If they're starting out as freshmen, obviously that's not going to apply to them, but that as they go through their 4 years, that would be something the student should be aware of and keep an eye on. So how do students apply? Basically, they just fill out the FAFSA or their alternative application. That's all they got to do to see if they're eligible. MAP award calculations are completed for Illinois residents who list a MAP eligible school as one of their school choices on the FAFSA or the LTAP. If a student only lists out-of-state schools, you'll see nothing that stated we will not receive that ISER from the Department of Education. We only get it from Department of Education if there's an Illinois school listed. So moving on, we'll start with our teacher programs here. The Early Childhood Access Consortium for Equity Scholarship, better known as ECACE. It provides funds for those who are currently working or have worked in the early childhood education field and are seeking additional credits or additional credentials and degrees. The recipients must attend a public or non-profit private 2 or 4 year gateway entitled ECAC member institution. And if you click on that link, it would take you to those list of schools. Recipients are expected to continue or return to teaching or direct services in their early childhood care education field in Illinois after they complete their program of study. The maximum annual award for 25-26 is $7,500. I anticipate it would be the same amount for 26-27, but it's not confirmed yet. It'll basically depend on budget and if we get appropriations. Those interested in pursuing available early childhood education opportunities can complete the Higher Education Navigator interest form to be connected to someone who will walk them through their options. So eligibility for ECACE, they must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen or meet the criteria of the RISE Act, be a member of the incumbent workforce currently working or have worked in the early childhood industry in either a licensed, or license exempt facility, including home-based childcare for family, friend, neighbor, a center, community-based care, preschool for all programs, school-based preschool settings and Head Start programs that serve children from birth to age 5. Acceptable positions include teachers, assistant teachers, directors, family child care providers, and assistants. Applicants must provide documentation confirming their current membership in the Gateways to Opportunity Registry. They need to be enrolled or accepted for enrollment on a full-time or part-time, at least 3 credit hour basis at the undergraduate level at a public or non-private private 2 or 4 year gateway entitled Early Childhood Access Consortium for the Equity Member Institution and pursuing at least one of the following: an Associate of Applied Science degree or a related certificate in early childhood education, or an associate degree with a concentration in early childhood at Improved College. Or they could be working on a bachelor's degree in early childhood education with or without a professional educator license. Please note an applicant that has an AA or an AS degree in early childhood education, but has not yet completed a bachelor's degree in early childhood education will meet the undergraduate education eligibility criteria for this program, so they would be eligible. Also, an applicant that has an undergraduate degree in any field other than early childhood education is now pursuing an AA or an AAS for bachelor's in early childhood education would also meet those requirements. And of course, they must maintain satisfactory academic progress, which you'll see that throughout all of our programs. Complete the application process by the deadline, the priority application deadline. And that's set every year. So that would be on the student's website where they can see when they have to have that application in. Be certified as meeting eligibility requirements by the college at which the scholarship will be used, because they do have, each school has their own set of requirements. Not be in default on any student loan nor a refund or state or federal grant. One thing about this one, students do not have to demonstrate financial need. As you remember, I mentioned that in MAP that they have to have a need. For this scholarship, they don't. Although the SAI from lowest to highest is used for us to determine, help us in determining when we're awarding students. So how do students apply? They got to fill out the FAFSA. They complete the online application in the ISAC student portal. And if you're a brand new student, if they're brand new, they would need to first create a profile, and they'll use that same profile for any ISAC programs that they apply for. Sign the application's teaching agreement, promissory note, because there is a teaching requirement, which we'll get to that later. By signing this note, the student promises to fill their teaching requirement according to the rules of the program. The next one's Golden Apple. Golden Apple is unique to ISAC in the sense that all ISAC does is basically help administer the program. The Golden Apple Foundation, they're the ones that accept the students' applications. They review the applications, they make the approval on the applications, and they let us know who's eligible. They'll tell us how much a dollar amount that they're eligible for, and that's basically all we do is open it up so that schools and universities can go in and request the funds. And that's done yearly. Let's see here. The funds may be used for assistance with tuition and fees, room and board, or a commuter allowance. And as a condition of the scholarships, the recipient agrees to teach in an Illinois school of need for not less than 5 years. So it has a pretty specific requirement to it. First and second year school students get a maximum annual award of $2,500. Third, fourth, and fifth is $5,000. Each year, the foundation will identify Golden Apple scholars eligible to receive scholarship assistance from ISAC. To qualify, the student must do the following. Be designated as a Golden Apple Scholar by the Golden Apple Foundation for Excellence in Teaching. Be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen or meet the criteria of the RISE Act. Be a resident of Illinois. And if a dependent student, both the student, parent, guardian must be residents of Illinois. Be a high school graduate or recipient of a general education GED certificate. Not be in default of any student loan nor a refund or repayment on any state or federal grant. Meet the school staff policy at the school, satisfactory academic progress policy. Be enrolled at a 4-year institution designated by the foundation as a participating Illinois university on at least a half-time basis as a freshman through a senior. Have earned an cumulative grade point average GPA of 2.5 on a 4.0 scale if enrolled at the sophomore, junior, and senior level, and have not received 8 semesters or 12 quarters of the Golden Apple Scholarship. And the foundation kind of monitors that. And so they'll let us know if the students exceeded that or not. They have to enter, of course, into that, sign that promissory note and enter into that saying that they agree to teach for the 5 years that the requirement is. They be enrolled in post-secondary course of study leading to initial teacher licensure or taking additional courses needed to gain Illinois State Board of Education's approval to teach, including alternative teacher licensure. Have participated in all required programs, adhere to the residential guidelines and standard of conduct as a designated Golden Apple Scholar of the Foundation. Have not been awarded an Illinois special education tuition waiver or an MTI scholarship, which that MTI scholarship now is no longer there. I didn't catch that when we didn't get that knocked out of there, so I apologize for that. But the MTI scholarship's no longer a scholarship available at ISAC, but this should say Teachers of Illinois. That's what this should say. So they can't receive SETTW or Teachers of Illinois if they're getting the Golden Apple Scholarship. How do students apply? For the Golden Apple website, students can view benefits and eligibility requirements and see more detailed year-specific information. So how do they apply? They complete the application on the Golden Apple Foundation website. And it's also found under Become a Teacher tab, Scholars Apply in Illinois. You can see that right there. The next, I'll move to the SETTW, the Illinois Special Education Teacher Tuition Waiver. It encourages teachers not certified in a special education discipline and students to pursue careers as Illinois teachers in any area of a special education program. It can be used up to 4 calendar years at any one of the public 4-year colleges, and those are listed here. Certified teachers who receive an approval through their school district teach in special education discipline and are seeking initial certification in a special education discipline, they may apply for this waiver. Teachers already certified in special education discipline may not receive the tuition waiver. To qualify for this, to qualify for the scholarship, they must be a U.S. citizen, eligible non-citizen, or meet the criteria of the RISE Act, be a resident of Illinois, meet one of the following conditions: graduated or scheduled to graduate from an approved high school in the academic year in which the award is made, and perform in the upper half of the graduating class according to performance-based academic data provided by that high school, or graduated from high school prior to the academic year in which the award is made and do not hold a valid teaching license or hold a valid teaching license that is not in the discipline of special education. Be enrolled or accepted enrollment at one of the eligible 4-year colleges in Illinois, providing the institution offers a concentration in special education as an undergraduate or graduate student seeking initial licensure in the area of special education. Be enrolled in a program of special education within 10 days after the beginning of the term for which the waiver was initially awarded. Meet satisfactory academic progress. That's for whatever school that they're going to. Remain in attendance at the school on a continuous basis for up to 4 years unless they're granted an approved leave of absence, in which case the course of study must be completed within 6 years. Not be in default on any federal student loan, nor a refund or repayment of a state or federal grant or scholarship. Not be a prior recipient of the waiver or awarded, and again, that MTI is in there. That MTI is no longer there, as I said, for any of our programs. Awarded an Illinois Teacher Scholarship, which is our new scholarship, which I'll get to that here soon, or the Golden Apple Scholarship. So again, kind of like Golden Apple, you can only receive 1 teaching award. You can't receive 2. You can't do Teachers of Illinois and a Golden Apple, or SETTW and a Golden Apple, that type of thing. Once the academic year is ended, adjustments to benefits received will not be made for individuals who originally had their expenses, tuition, and fees covered using those benefits. the applicant cannot pay back the dollar amount, say, because they want to get out of the teaching requirements. They cannot do that. Students who are general education development, or students who are students who are receive a GED are not eligible for this waiver. And how do they apply? They go to the ISAC Students Portal. They'll fill out the application and sign the teaching agreement and promissory note. Now, here's that Teachers of Illinois that I was talking about that has replaced, I shouldn't say it's replaced, but it's very similar to our MTI program. But it's a new program that has different eligibility requirements to it. This new program, it started with 2526. We're just getting it launched right now at ISAC. It encourages academically talented students to pursue careers as a teacher at eligible institutions, preschool, elementary, and secondary schools. The scholarship may be received for a maximum of 8 semesters or 12 quarters of assistance. A student must sign an agreement promising to begin teaching within 1 year in an Illinois school district that has a 3-year average teacher vacancy rate above the state average, or where the number of teacher vacancy in the district over the past 3 years is higher than that state. That will be a drop down on the student's application. We've already researched these schools, some of these requirements. So when the student applies, if they see their school that they attended, when they fill that on the application, they'll know they've already met that requirement. ISAC has already researched that for them, the eligible schools. Recipients must teach 1 year for each year of scholarship assistance received and shall teach on a continuous basis for the required period of time. If the teaching obligation is not fulfilled, the scholarship does convert to a loan, which has a 5% interest rate, and the entire amount received prorated to the fraction of the teaching obligation that was not met. So to qualify, an applicant must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen and meet the criteria of the RISE Act, be a resident of Illinois, be a high school graduate or received a state of Illinois high school diploma, have been enrolled in a public school district in Illinois at any point through kindergarten through grade 12. And again, this part here is something ISAC has already researched what eligible schools that would be K through 12 that would be eligible, that meets these requirements. So all the students got to do is look in the drop-down box to see if they can find their school that they attended. So part of the requirements that we looked into when we researched the schools, they had an average of at least 70% of the students who were eligible to receive free or reduced price lunch, and that had a 3-year average teacher vacancy rate at or above the statewide average, excluding public school districts that had 0 vacancies, or in which a number of teacher vacancies in the district was at or above the statewide average number of teacher vacancies, excluding public school districts that had 0 vacancies. They must be enrolled or accepted enrollment on at least a half-time basis at a qualified Illinois institution of higher education, and be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in a course of study upon completion qualifies you as a licensed preschool, elementary, or secondary school teacher. Or if you already are licensed to teach, be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in a course of study leading to an additional teaching endorsement or master's degree in academic field in which you are teaching or plan to teach. If you are not yet enrolled in an educator preparation program, have received 1 or more college and career pathway endorsements, and commit to enrolling in a course of study leading to teacher licensure, including the alternative teacher licensure to be a preschool, elementary, or secondary school teacher, and have earned an accumulative GPA of 2.5 on a 4.0 scale. Maintain SAP is determined by whatever college you're attending. Submit your complete application on a timely basis, and we'll announce each and every year of when the application opens, and we will also announce when the deadline is for students to submit the application, and that'll be announced each year. So they'll complete the application process by one, completing that application and signing the agreement. And also they need to complete the FAFSA. So for 25, 26, this was a really fast turnaround for this program because it was brand new to us. The deadline for students to apply was February 16th of 2026. And currently we are in the process of beginning to open up certification for universities for students who have applied. And we will have an eligibility list for those schools to look at, and they'll certify, yes, this student is eligible, or no, they are not. And then we'll begin a payment and awarding process for the 25-26 school year. They must be certified. They must be, be certified as meeting eligibility requirements by the college at which they're going to use that scholarship. They need to accept the scholarship. And then the teaching commitment must be fulfilled in an Illinois school district that has a 3-year average teacher vacancy rate above the state average, or where the number of teacher vacancy in the district over the past 3 years is higher than that of the state, not be in default on any student loan, of course, or owe back any federal grants or federal or state grants. They have, let's see, they also should not have previously received funds. They cannot previously receive funds from the Teacher of Illinois Scholarship Program for the equivalent of 4 academic years, which is the program maximum. So they can't go over those 4 years. And again, they can't receive teaching. They can't get a SETTW scholarship or a Golden Apple. And plus the Teachers of Illinois. It has to be one or the other, just like the other programs that we just talked about. And again, how do they apply? They got to fill out the FAFSA, they got to fill out the application, they got to sign the teaching agreement promissory note. And this is just a little chart we made for 25, 26. We don't have one out there yet for 26, 27, but it shows the priority application dates, which would kind of give you an idea of what they would look like for 26, 27. The maximum award of what each one had for 25, 26. And then here's a link here once you get the access to the PowerPoint that you could click on to see that chart. And this is just a reminding of the teaching commitments. Recipients for the Golden Apple, they must sign that promissory note and commit to at least 5 years at an eligible school beginning within 2 years of the completion of their degree. For SETTW, the Illinois Special Education Teacher tuition waiver, recipients that commit to teaching full-time for at least 2 of 5 years immediately following completion of their education, beginning within 1 year of the completion of their studies. Teachers of Illinois, they commit to teaching full-time in an eligible school year for at least 1 year per year that they receive the scholarship. And they have to begin their teaching requirements within 1 year of their graduation. Each one of these, as you can see down here below, if they do convert to a loan, there's the 5% interest accrues for these. Earlier I mentioned ECACE. Right now there's not any teaching requirements for them. There's no commitment where they have to repay back that loan, or I'm sorry, where it would convert to a loan. I'm not saying that won't change in the future, but for right now, the students do not have that kind of requirement like these other 3 programs have. Nursing Education Scholarship. This is provides assistance, scholarship assistance to those who are pursuing a certificate in practical nursing, an associate degree in nursing, a hospital-based diploma in nursing, a bachelor's or graduate degree in nursing, or a graduate degree in nursing to become a nurse educator. Applicants must demonstrate the greatest financial need among qualified applicants. So the award does vary. It could be $9,117 up to $18,574, and I'll get into that a little bit here on the next slide. The program is designed to increase the number of nurses available for employment in Illinois by offering scholarships to overcome the financial barriers to education. An NES award will pay a portion of tuition fee charges, plus for full-time students only, a living allowance. The scholarship pays for coursework within the nursing curriculum, but does not pay for prerequisite coursework. So you can see here, the maximum award you can get if you're doing a certificate in practical nursing, associate degree in nursing, or hospital-based diploma in nursing. Your maximum award is the $9,117. If you're a student's working towards an associate degree in nursing, a baccalaureate degree in nursing, or a graduate degree in nursing, or a graduate degree in nursing to become a nurse educator, their maximum award would be the $18,574. So if a recipient completes a certificate or diploma or degree program for which they receive scholarship assistance, their maximum available years of assistance is based on the maximum for the new degree being sought. So for example, if they started out getting their nursing education scholarship and they were getting their associates, and they've completed that, and now they're going on to get their baccalaureate, then they automatically would be eligible for that higher award once that they pursue that. And I shouldn't say automatically, because it's going to depend on, because they have to reapply each year and how, if they're still qualifying for that award, but they would be reviewed as at a higher level if they do get the award. So to qualify for their nursing education, a scholarship must be a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident or meet the criteria of the ISAC. Be an Illinois resident for at least 1 year prior to the date of application. Be enrolled or accepted for enrollment to a nursing or nursing education program in Illinois that is approved by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation or the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and they need to demonstrate financial need. They must maintain satisfactory academic progress as determined by the college, establish satisfactory payment arrangements if they're in default of a student loan, and sign the work agreement, promissory note. How do they apply? They complete the FAFSA. They would fill out the application and then sign that promissory note. Next thing I'll touch on just briefly is the Illinois National Guard. It pays tuition and eligibility fees at all Illinois public universities or public community colleges. It's an entitlement program and is awarded to eligible recipients regarding of the funding level. And you can work with your university that if any school that has the public university or community college that has that program, if a student can work with them regarding that. This grant can be used for either undergraduate or graduate enrollment for the equivalent of 4 or 6 academic years of full-time enrollment. To be eligible for this scholarship, they must be an Illinois National Guard member, defined as meeting one of these 2 criteria. They got be active in the Illinois National Guard or have been active in Illinois National Guard for at least 5 consecutive years and have been called to federal active duty for at least 6 months and be within 12 months after your discharge date from the Illinois National Guard. Have completed 1 full year of service in Illinois National Guard. And students that for this program, they know if they're eligible, and they work with their the Department of Military Affairs, and they help them with this. And then Department of Military Affairs, and they'll work with ISAC then for these students that are eligible for the program. They also must be an enlisted member officer, be enrolled at an Illinois public 2 or 4 year college, and again, not be in default of any student loan or any state or federal grants, a balance on those. Maintain an acceptable grade point average according to the policy that's determined by a college that they're attending. So it could vary from school to school. High school students may enlist during their junior year and complete their calendar year of service prior to college attendance. This allows graduating high school students to use the grant immediately upon entering college. So how do they apply? They'll go to the student portal and complete that. The Illinois Veterans Get really doesn't apply to new students, but it does pay tuition and mandatory fees to all Illinois public universities or public community colleges. It's also an entitlement fees, an entitlement program. It covers tuition and mandatory fees. Qualified applicants may use this grant at an undergraduate or graduate level for up to 4 years of full-time enrollment. Has served at least 1 year of federal active duty in the Armed Forces of the United States, which may include the Illinois National Guard and the reserve component of the Armed Forces, or regardless of length of service, have served in a foreign country at the time of hostilities in the country as recognized by the issuance of the presidential proclamation or the presidential executive order in which the Armed Forces, Expeditionary Medal or other campaign service medals are awarded according to the presidential executive order, was medically discharged for service-related reasons, or was discharged prior to August 11, 1967. So Displaced Energy Worker Dependent Transition Scholarship, better known as DEWS for us at ISAC, that's how we refer it. It provides scholarship assistance to children, including adopted and stepchildren of eligible displaced energy workers. The program was designed to support students who are deterred from attending or completing an educational program at an Illinois institution because of a parent's layoff at a retiring power plant or a closing coal mine. The scholarship pays tuition and fee costs at public universities or community colleges for a period equal to 1 calendar year, including a summer term for undergraduate or graduate study. An applicant does not need to be an Illinois resident at the time of enrollment. However, the award is limited to the cost of in-district and in-state tuition and fees. The award amount will not exceed the cost of tuition and fees at that institution. To be eligible, they got to be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen or meet the eligibility criteria of the ISAC. A natural child, legally adopted child, or stepchild of an energy worker who has lost employment due to the reduced operation or closure of a fossil fuel plant or coal mine. Enrolled or accepted for enrollment on a full-time or part-time basis, at least, and they have to be enrolled at least 3 credit hours at an Illinois public university or community college. In the absence of the transition scholarship assistance deterred by financial considerations from completing an educational program to Illinois at any Illinois public university or community college of choice, as shown by there being unmet need in their financial aid package. An applicant does not need to be a resident of Illinois at the time of enrollment. However, the award is limited to cost of in-district and in-state tuition and fees, and the award amount cannot exceed the cost of tuition and fees at that particular institution. And basically, how do they apply? They fill out the FAFSA and they complete the application. Grant programs for dependents of police, fire, and correction officers, better known as PFC. If a correctional officer employed by the Illinois Department of Corrections in a security position or an Illinois police or fire officer is killed or sustains an injury resulting in permanent disability in the line of duty, the officer's spouse and children may receive grant assistance under this program without regard to their financial need. The grant may be used for an equivalent of 8 semesters or 12 quarters of undergraduate, graduate enrollment. Grants are funded by the appropriations from the Illinois General Assembly and are applicable towards tuition and mandatory fees. A recipient attending a public institution may receive the grant, but that does not exceed the cost of tuition and mandatory fees. That's where it's capped at. A recipient attending a private institution in Illinois may receive a grant sufficient to pay the cost of tuition and mandatory fees, provided the award amount does not exceed the maximum grant payable to a student enrolled in the most expensive comparable program of study at the public institution. To be eligible, they must be the child or must be the natural born or legally adopted child or any child in the legal custody of the Illinois police, fire, or correction officer who was killed or disabled in line of duty. While children of disabled Illinois police, fire, correctional officers need not have been born, legally adopted, or in the legal custody of the officer before the disability occurred, they must have been so at the time the officer was killed in order to receive this grant. The spouse of an Illinois correctional officer or police fire officer at the time of death or disability, common law partners are not eligible. They must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, must be enrolled at least half-time basis at the institution that is approved for participation in the Monetary Award Program, our MAP program, must be meeting SAP academic progress, cannot be in default of student loan or any scholarships or grants, not be a resident of Illinois need not be a resident of Illinois at the time of enrollment, and does not have to demonstrate financial need. An applicant is ineligible if he or she is either a spouse who remarries after an Illinois police, fire, or correctional officer is killed in line of duty, or is a spouse who divorces a permanently disabled Illinois police, fire, or correctional officer, or a stepchild who's not in legal custody or legally adopted by an Illinois police, fire, or correctional officer. And how do they apply? They'll go to our student portal and fill out that application. All first-time applicants, though, must complete an application which includes biographical information regarding the deceased or disabled officer. And the application must be accompanied by a death certificate or the certified statement of a licensed physician regarding that disability. The physician statement must certify that there's a mental or physical condition that is reasonably certain to continue throughout the lifetime of the officer, resulting in 90 to 100% incapacity, from performing substantial material duties previously discharged. Documentation must be submitted to prove that the death or disability occurred in the line of duty. And this is just a quick program deadline application dates for 26-27 that we have out there. Some of them are still being determined. And then for more information, you can go to our ISAC website, and you can go into our ISAC gift assistance programs, and you can look for more information, a lot more than what I went over today. This was just kind of meant as a brief overview. And this is where a student can contact our ISAC Student Engagement Support Services for any questions they might have about their award, about their application process, that type of thing. Schools can contact our ISAC Partner Services Department. We work with the high schools, the universities, that type of thing, for any questions that they have in the processing of an award, or maybe even an eligibility type question. And that's going to end our presentation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. We did have a few questions. I know it's 10:59.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was trying to hurry.
Nicole answered a few, so let me just go really quick. Are transfer students eligible for ECAs?
Yes.
Okay.
If they meet all the other guidelines.
Perfect. The second question is the earned GPA required for high school seniors who are applying as well, or for those already in college?
It just depends. Some the ones that I mentioned on the power slides, those are for incoming students, but there are some programs that have a little bit different requirements, GPA requirements if they're in school, and schools will know what those are.
Great, thank you. And then as well, if you need any program information, Sherry provided all the information on this slide as well. And then the last one says, the presentation says the priority consideration date was February 16th. Is there a hard deadline coming after that, or is the application closed?
Which program was that?
It's teacher TISP.
Okay, so that application that for the teachers, that's just for the 25-26 school year. That's for the year that kids who are in college right now. We have not set the one for the 26-27 school year yet.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. That was it for all the questions. Um, thank you so much. You all have, I believe, a
Okay,
10-minute break. But thank you so much for joining us today, Sherry.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.